Mummy, good morning. I just wanted to make a quick snack.
Don't mummy me. I am not your mother. Pack your things and leave this house.
Sonia snapped, stepping closer, her eyes flashing with venom. Let me make one thing very clear to you, young lady. A woman who lacks the decency to sleep in her own father's house, a girl who wanders into people's kitchens before the sun rises, is not the kind of woman we welcome into this family. You are a distraction to my son. Pack your things and leave this house before you humiliate yourself further. Sonia was so sure no woman was good enough for her son until she met her match. This is African Folktales with Nsinem. Sit tight and watch Mommy Dearest meet her nemesis. Ojo and his mother were like Siamese twins. Everywhere Ojo went, Sonia was never far behind. In fact, most people joked that she loved her son more than she loved her husband. Ojo was the center of Sonia's world. The sun rose and set around him. Being her only son, everyone understood why she was protective. What they didn't understand was why she treated every woman who came near him as an enemy. Her husband Simon had grown tired of it. "Sonia, how long will this continue?" he asked one evening. "Ojo is 35 years old. Most men his age have wives and children. Let him move out and build his own home." Sonia looked up from the vegetables she was cutting. "Move out?" she scoffed. "Yes, your attachment to him is becoming unhealthy." Sonia dropped the knife and folded her arms. "When you carry a child for 9 months and push him into this world, then you can teach me how to love my son." Simon sighed. He knew there was no point arguing. Sonia walked away before he could respond.
A few moments later, she pushed open Ojo's bedroom door without knocking. She froze. Ojo was kissing a young woman. The startled couple immediately jumped apart. "Mom!" Ojo exclaimed. The young woman nervously adjusted her dress. Sonia's eyes swept over her from head to toe. Without saying a word, she walked to the corner of the room, picked up Ojo's laundry basket, and headed for the door. Please, meet Anita." Sonia didn't even look back. She walked out as if the young woman didn't exist. Moments later, Ojo stormed out of his room and found his mother in the laundry area. "Mom, why is the concept of knocking so hard for you to understand?" he asked, clearly upset. "I only wanted to get your laundry," Sonia replied. "Besides, what is a young lady doing in your room?" she added. "Mom, I have told you to stop doing my laundry."
"But why should I stop?" Sonia snapped. "So you no longer need me? After I carried you in my womb for 10 months. 10 months! Ojo rubbed his forehead. "That's not what I said." "Then what are you saying?" "I'm saying I need some privacy." Sonia folded her arms and looked away. Ojo closed his eyes in frustration. This wasn't the first time they had had this conversation. At 28, he had rented a beautiful apartment across town. He had been excited to finally live on his own. But the moment Sonia heard about it, she fell ill. Relatives flooded the house, begging him not to leave his mother in that condition. Feeling guilty, Ojo had given up the apartment. A year later, he tried again. This time, Sonia put up such a fight that the entire family got involved. "Your 2 sisters are already married," she had cried. "Your youngest sister has gone for her National Youth Service in Calabar. Please, don't leave me too."
Once again, Ojo gave in. But things were different now. Unknown to his parents, he had already bought a house. For 6 months, he had been planning how to break the news to his mother. Now, standing before her, he realized there would never be a perfect time. "I am moving out, Mom." Sonia laughed. "No, you're not." Ojo looked directly into her eyes. "The house is already mine. I bought it 6 months ago." The smile disappeared from Sonia's face. For the first time in years, she realized her son might actually leave. And that was when the battle lines were drawn. If Ojo thought moving out was going to give him some space, he was dead wrong. Sonia spent almost all her waking hours in Ojo's house. She insisted on being in charge of the interior decor. She personally hired his staff. even when she wasn't physically there, she would call his housekeeper and give instructions on what to cook for Ojo.
His gatesman kept her updated on everyone who came in and out of the house. Ojo still felt trapped in his own home. He had hoped his mother would loosen her grip once he settled into his new place, but he was terribly wrong. One day, Ojo showed up at his parents' house with a woman. It was Anita. She was every mother's dream daughter-in-law, beautiful, intelligent, industrious, and respectful. Anita was a world-renowned chef and also an architect with a well-established firm. With several successful businesses and endorsement deals under her belt, Anita was a force to be reckoned with. She and Ojo had met at Harvard Business School.
But even as they walked into his parents' home, Ojo felt nervous. This was not the first time he would be introducing a woman to his mother. In fact, the ghosts of his past relationships seemed to haunt the very hallway they were walking down. First, there was Philomena. She was a brilliant young medical doctor doing her demanding housemanship at the General Hospital. Because her days were swallowed by exhausting ward rounds, she would usually sleep over at Ojo's so they could catch whatever precious moments of time together they could find.
One rare morning, Philomena had the morning off. Wanting to give Ojo a treat, she quietly slipped out of his bed around 4 in the morning and crept down to the kitchen to make a small snack of popcorn for them to share. She never expected to meet a sleepless hawk waiting in the dark. Sonia had cornered the young doctor right there in the kitchen, the scent of fresh popcorn hanging in the air. Standing under the dim fluorescent light, his mother had folded her arms, looking Philomena up and down with absolute disgust. "So this is what they teach you at the hospital." Sonia had sneaked up behind her, her voice a sharp hiss. "Creeping around a man's kitchen like a thief in the dead of night? Slaving over a stove at 4 a.m. just to keep a man? You look desperate." Philomena had clutched the bowl to her chest, her face burning. "Mommy, good morning. I just wanted to make a quick snack for Ojo and me." "Don't mommy me. I am not your mother," Sonia snapped, stepping closer, her eyes flashing with venom.
Let me make one thing very clear to you, young lady. A woman who lacks the decency to sleep in her own father's house, a girl who wanders into people's kitchens before the sun rises, is not the kind of woman we welcome into this family. You are a distraction to my son. Pack your things and leave this house before you humiliate yourself further. If you're enjoying this story so far, click the like button and subscribe to this channel for more intriguing African tales from me. Do share this story with a friend or two that you feel will enjoy it. Back to the story. Back in the bedroom, Ojo was still waiting for his snack when Philomena walked in, tears streaming down her face. Weak with embarrassment, she ignored Ojo's frantic questions, packed her bags in a blind panic, ran to her car, and drove off into the early morning darkness, never to return.
At the time, Ojo had made excuses for his mother. He convinced himself that Sonia had only reacted that way out of shock, upset at the sudden sight of a strange woman in her kitchen so early. So, with his next girlfriend, May, he vowed to do things the right way. He arranged a formal, beautiful family dinner to introduce her properly. But Sonia's hostility wasn't born out of surprise. It was born out of a refusal to share her son. During the dinner, in front of the entire gathering of extended family, his mother had utterly embarrassed the poor lady.
"Besties, you won't believe what she did. Sit tight and I will tell you."
May had spent hours preparing a rich traditional stew, hoping to impress her future mother-in-law. Sonia had sat at the head of the table, picked up her spoon with dramatic reluctance, and took a tiny bite. The entire table fell silent, waiting for her verdict. Sonia chewed slowly, then suddenly spat the food right back onto her napkin with a look of profound disgust. She dropped her spoon with a loud ringing clatter against the porcelain plate. "Is this what you call food?" Sonia had announced loudly, wiping her mouth as if she had been poisoned. "This is completely bland. It tastes like cardboard and water. Tell me, did you actually use spices or did you just wave them over the pot? If my Ojo eats this garbage, he will lose weight in a week. A woman who cannot even season a basic stew has no business wanting to be a wife." The poor girl had burst into tears right there at the dinner table, pushing her chair back and running out of the house while the relatives murmured in awkward silence. That relationship too crumbled under the weight of his mother's cruelty. Now, standing at the door with Anita, Ojo took a deep, steadying breath. Though with all her accomplishments, Anita was a literal force to be reckoned with. But as Ojo reached for the brass doorknob of his parents' living room, his hand trembled. He knew that to his mother, no amount of success, beauty, or virtue would ever be enough. To Sonia, any woman loving her son was committing a crime. The door swung open. The moment they stepped into the living room, the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. But to Ojo's surprise, Sonia smiled. Not the cold, calculated smile he knew too well. This one looked warm, almost motherly. "Welcome," she said, rising gracefully from the sofa. Anita paused, clearly caught off guard. "Good evening, Ma," Anita said politely. Sonia stepped forward and took Anita's hand. "So, you're Anita. Ojo can't stop talking about you. I am so happy to finally meet you." Ojo blinked. Sonia turned to the dining area. "You both came at the perfect time. Dinner is ready." Simon emerged from the dining room and smiled. "Ojo, welcome, son." Then he noticed Anita. "And this must be the famous Anita." Anita smiled. "Good evening, sir." Simon shook her hand warmly. "Welcome, my dear. Any woman brave enough to follow this stubborn boy into this house already has my respect." Everyone laughed. Even Ojo began to relax. Could his mother finally be changing? At the dining table, Sonia was unusually pleasant. She asked Anita about her businesses. She complimented her eloquence. She even praised her posture and manners. Ojo could hardly believe what he was seeing. Anita too seemed relieved. Perhaps he had worried for nothing. Dinner went smoothly. The rich aroma of spicy goat meat stew filled the room as plates clinked against cutlery. Halfway through the meal, Ojo lifted his spoon and frowned playfully. "Mom, I need more stew." Sonia glanced at the serving bowl. "It's finished," she stood. "I'll get more from the kitchen." Before anyone could move, Anita stood up. "Please, Ma, let me help you." Sonia smiled. "Of course, dear." The two women walked into the kitchen together. The moment they entered, Sonia placed the pot on the counter. Then, everything changed. The warmth vanished from her face. Her smile disappeared as if it had never existed. Anita immediately felt the shift. Sonia turned slowly to face her. Up close, her eyes were hard, cold, calculating. Her gaze settled on Anita's face, then lower, to the small diamond nose ring. She let out a soft, mocking laugh. "So, this is the modern woman my son wants to marry." Anita stiffened. "Pardon, Ma." Sonia folded her arms. "Let us not pretend." Her voice was calm, almost gentle. That made it worse. "You are beautiful, successful, educated. I can see why Ojo is impressed." She stepped closer. "But you are not good enough for my son." Anita stared at her. Sonia continued. "A woman who pierces her nose like a rebellious teenager is already telling the world something." Her eyes narrowed. "You will not submit to my son." Anita swallowed. "Ma, with all due respect." Sonia raised a hand. "I am not done." She took another step closer. "You are too successful." That caught Anita off guard. Too successful. Sonia's lips curled. "Women like you are dangerous. You build companies, you make money, you have employees worshipping the ground you walk on." Her voice hardened. "And because of that, you start believing you are equal to a man." Anita's jaw tightened. And because of that, you start believing you are equal to a man. Anita's jaw tightened. I believe men and women deserve mutual respect, Anita said, and Sonia smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Exactly, she pointed a finger at Anita. That right there is why you will never fit into this family. My son needs a woman who will honor him as the head of his home, a woman who understands obedience, a woman who will not challenge him every time he speaks. Her eyes burned into Anita. You will challenge him, you will compete with him, and one day you will try to control him. Anita found her voice. You don't know me, Ma. Sonia leaned in so close Anita could smell her perfume. I know enough. Then came the final blow. I want to make something very clear, so there will be no misunderstanding.
Her voice dropped to a whisper. I will never accept you into this family. Every word landed like a slap. Never. The kitchen went silent. Sonia straightened and put the mask back on. Just like that. The sweet smile returned. Now, wipe that expression off your face. She handed Anita the bowl of stew. We don't want my son suspecting anything. Then she opened the kitchen door and with a cheerful voice she called out, Ojo, we're coming with your stew all. Ah, finally, Ojo joked as they returned to the dining table. He looked up, his face bright with a relief he hadn't felt in years. I was about to come rescue you two. Oh, no rescue needed, Sonia said, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness as she took her seat. She patted Anita's hand gently. We were just getting to know each other. Isn't that right, Anita?
Anita forced a polite smile, her eyes meeting Sonia's for a split second. The older woman's gaze was victorious, daring her to speak up. Yes, Mommy, we had a very enlightening conversation. Fantastic, Simon smiled, completely oblivious to the war that had just been declared in his kitchen. It's rare to see my wife get along so quickly with anyone. For the rest of the dinner, Anita played her part perfectly. But the moment they left the house that night, everything changed. Without a single word of explanation to Ojo, Anita completely cut ties with him. Anita stopped taking Ojo's calls, she blocked his number, ignored his emails, and accepted a long-term project in Dubai. Within days, she vanished from his life. Ojo was devastated. He didn't know about the secret threat Sonia had delivered in the kitchen. He only knew that the woman he loved had suddenly abandoned him.
If you think Sonia has completely ruined her son's life, hit that like button right now and subscribe so you don't miss how this story ends. Heartbroken and desperate, Ojo drove straight to Pauline's house, his eldest sister. He broke down in her living room, his head in his hands. I am going to die alone, Ojo wept. Anita left me and she won't even tell me why. It's my mother, I know it. She is a curse to my love life. She scares away every good woman who comes near me. And now she has ruined the best thing that ever happened to me. His eldest sister looked at him, her face hardening. She had watched her mother destroy Ojo's happiness with Philomena, with me, and now with Anita. She was tired of it. She placed a hand on Ojo's shoulder. Stop crying, she said to her brother.
She leaned back slowly on the sofa, studying him. You don't need to fight high again, she said softly. Ojo looked up. Then what do I do? She smiled. Leave that to me. And just like that, she stopped talking. No explanation, no details, only silence, heavy enough to make Ojo uneasy. Because if there was anyone that could match their mother's energy, it was Pauline. Before we continue, let me give a warm shout out to some of our loyal subscribers. A warm shout out goes to Rose from USA, Janet from Guyana, and Anna from South Africa. Your comments put a smile on my face. Thank you. Back to the story.
2 weeks later, Sonia marched into Ojo's house, her face radiant with victory. She sat him down, barely able to contain her excitement. Ojo, my son, God has finally answered my prayers. I have found her, the perfect woman for you. Her name is Chika. She is beautiful, deeply respectful, and so decent. She knows how to submit to a man and honor a mother-in-law. Not like that corporate wildcard, Anita. You are marrying her next month. Remembering his sister's warning, Ojo didn't argue. He simply nodded. Okay, ma'am, if you say she is the one, I will marry her. Sonia was ecstatic. She quickly organized a traditional wedding, rushing the arrangements before Ojo could change his mind. She gloated to the entire family about how she had saved her son from the dangerous Anita and found him a true submissive wife. After the wedding, the illusion Sonia had been clinging to began to crumble.
At first, she told herself it was just adjustment. Chika was new in the house, trying to find her footing. Sonia even smiled to herself, convinced that in time the girl would understand her place and things would return to normal. But that belief did not last long. It started subtly, then escalated into something Sonia could no longer ignore. The moment Chika moved into Ojo's house, the atmosphere shifted completely. At first, Sonia thought she could still maintain control. She arrived the next morning with her usual confidence, walking straight into the house as she always did. But this time, she was stopped at the gate. The new security guard stepped forward. "Good morning, Ma. Do you have an appointment?" Sonia frowned.
Appointment? I'm his mother." Before the guard could respond, Chika appeared behind him, calm and composed. "Is there a problem?" Chika asked. Sonia turned sharply. "What is this nonsense? Since when do I need permission to enter my son's house?" Chika smiled politely, but her tone was firm. "With respect, Ma, this is now my home too, and I've introduced new house rules." Sonia blinked. "Rules?" Chika nodded. "Yes, Ma. All visitors must be scheduled, even family." Silence fell. Sonia laughed in disbelief. "You are telling me I need permission to see my own son?" Chika did not flinch. "Yes, Ma." For the first time, Sonia was forced to wait outside her son's gate for nearly 20 minutes before being allowed in. The second humiliation came a few days later. Sonia entered the house unannounced again, determined to remind Chika of her place. But as she stepped into the living room, she froze. Her favorite furniture had been changed. The antique center table she had personally chosen for Ojo's house was gone. The gold-trimmed vases she had arranged were missing. Even the curtains had been replaced with modern, minimalist designs. Sonia's eyes widened. What happened to my decorations? Chika walked in calmly, holding a tablet. I had them removed. Sonia turned slowly. You did what? Chika met her gaze. They didn't match the aesthetic of the home. I've redesigned the space. Sonia's voice rose. That furniture was selected by me. Chika nodded. And now it's been updated. She paused, then added gently but firmly. I hope you understand, Ma. This is my home with your son now, not a museum. That word hit harder than anything else. Sonia stood frozen, her chest rising and falling sharply. The third blow was even more painful. Sonia walked into the house again the following week, expecting at least familiarity from the staff she had personally selected over the years. But things were different. The housekeeper she trusted no longer responded to her instructions. The gateman avoided eye contact, and when Sonia tried to give directions about dinner, the chef politely interrupted her. Madam Sonia, Madam Chika has already approved the menu. Sonia turned sharply. Since when do I need approval to decide what my son eats? Before anyone could respond, Chika appeared at the staircase. Her voice was calm but authoritative. From now on, Ma, all decisions regarding the household go through me. Sonia stared at her. Even me? Chika did not hesitate. Yes, Ma, even you. A heavy silence followed. Sonia looked around the house she once controlled completely. No one spoke. No one obeyed her. For the first time in her life, Sonia felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Irrelevance. And slowly, for the first time, her confidence began to crack. Sonia was no longer walking into Ojo's house with confidence.
That night, Sonia could not take it anymore. She did not understand how a lady she handpicked could turn against her. But Sonia was yet to receive the biggest shocker of her life. She called Ojo immediately. "Ojo, this chica you married is disrespecting me," she snapped. "She is controlling your house like a dictator. She stopped your staff from listening to me." Ojo sounded calm on the phone. Too calm. "Mom, I don't understand why you are complaining." Sonia froze. "What do you mean?" "You said Chica was the perfect wife," Ojo replied. "You said she was respectful, decent, and exactly the kind of woman I needed." But Ojo cut her off. "Mom, stop exaggerating. Maybe you are just struggling to adjust." Sonia's mouth fell open. "Exaggerating?" she repeated in disbelief. "Yes," Ojo said. "And besides, you're the one who personally brought Chica into my life, so I think you should try harder to get along with her." Then he hung up.
Sonia slowly lowered the phone. Her chest tightened with a terrifying realization. Chica had done the impossible. She had turned Ojo's heart away from her. Each visit felt different. Each step into the house felt heavier. And for the first time in her life, Sonia began to realize something unsettling. She was no longer the woman in control. Drop a comment below. Do you think Chica is treating Sonia exactly how she deserves, or has she gone too far? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Back to the story. Desperate to get rid of the tiger in her son's house, Sonia secretly went behind her family's back. She tracked down Anita, literally begging her to come back. "Please, Anita, come back to my son," Sonia had pleaded, swallowing her immense pride. "He has married the wrong woman. That Chica is an animal. You are better than her." But Anita refused to listen, leaving Sonia to stew in her own misery. Finally, unable to take Chica's humiliation any longer, Sonia broke down completely. She rushed to Ojo's house one evening, falling to her knees in front of Ojo and Chica, tears streaming down her face. "Please," Sonia begged, her voice trembling as she clutched her chest. "I am sorry. I was wrong. Chica, please forgive me. I will respect your boundaries. I will never enter this house without permission again. Ojo, please tell your wife to have mercy on your mother." He looked down at his mother on the floor, the same woman who had used guilt, illness, and emotional blackmail to trap him his entire life. Instead of comforting her, Ojo stood up. Chica stood next to him, and then, to Sonia's absolute bewilderment, Chica burst out laughing. It wasn't a bitter laugh. It was a relaxed, completely different voice. "All right, Ojo," Chica said, wiping a fake tear from her eye. "I think my job here is done. I need to go handle my actual business." Sonia blinked through her tears, looking between them. What is happening here? Ojo, why is your wife laughing at me?" The front door opened, and Simon walked in, followed closely by Ojo's elder sister. Both of them had calm, knowing smiles on their faces. "She isn't my wife, Mom," Ojo said, his voice completely flat. "We were never married. The wedding, the certificate, the traditional ceremony, it was all a setup." Sonia's jaw dropped. She scrambled to her feet, looking at her daughter, then at her husband. "Simon, you knew about this?" "Of course I knew," Simon said, folding his arms. "You were destroying our son's life, Sonia. You drove away Philomena, you ruined things with me, and you almost destroyed his future with Anita. We had to show you that sometimes what you think is perfect and submissive is actually your worst nightmare." Oyo's elder sister stepped forward. "Chica is my close friend, Mom. She's an actress. I brought her in to play the exact role you always said you wanted. A decent, quiet, traditional girl. Just to teach you a lesson. You wanted a woman you could control, but you forgot that a wolf can easily wear sheep's clothing." Sonia staggered back, her breathing uneven. "So, that's why? she whispered. Her eyes widened in realization. No wonder you came to me with her, telling me she was quiet, gentle, and everything I had ever wanted in a daughter-in-law. She looked at Pauline in disbelief. You planned all this? Pauline didn't look away. Yes, ma'am, because nothing else was working. Sonia stood in the center of the living room, completely shattered. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Her entire family had united against her because of her own toxicity. But Anita, Sonia stammered, her voice cracking. Anita refused me. She won't come back. She didn't run away, ma'am, Ojo revealed. She stepped back so we could execute this plan. She knew exactly what we were doing.
Now that the fake marriage was out in the open, the entire family, Simon, the elder sister, and Ojo, decided it was time to put a proper end to the war. They packed into the car, taking a humbled Sonia with them, and drove straight to Anita's Audrey apartment. Sonia walked into Anita's living room, but this time there was no pride left in her. She looked at the beautiful, successful, world-renowned chef and architect and completely broke down. Before anyone could say a word, Sonia dropped to her knees right there on Anita's polished floor. Anita, please, Sonia wept, reaching out to touch Anita's feet. I am begging you. I am on my knees. Please forgive me for everything I said to you in that kitchen. Forgive me for what I did to the other girls. Please come back and marry my son. You are the only one who truly loves him. I will never interfere in your lives again. I promise.
Anita looked down at the woman who had once tried to make her feel small because of a nose ring and a Harvard degree. She glanced up at Ojo, whose eyes were filled with hope. Slowly, Anita reached down, took Sonia by the hands, and helped her stand up. I told you, Mommy, Anita said with a quiet, powerful smile. I love your son, and as long as you keep your promise, we can be a family. Sonia nodded frantically, wiping her eyes, completely humbled. The battle lines were finally gone. Sonia had learned the ultimate lesson, that true love also means letting go. When love becomes control, it destroys what it's trying to protect. True love is not ownership, it is trust, and sometimes letting go. If you enjoyed this story, then I'm sure you'll enjoy this story on your screen. Click to watch, and I'll see you there.